Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Hometown Heroes. I'm Mike Cannici, and tonight is part 2 of our interview with legendary Shelton player and former legendary Newtown coach, Coach Ken Roberts. And Coach, part 1 was a lot of fun.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to part 2. Thank you for coming on again.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Coach, so let's get right into it. I believe it was the 98 season you came on as an assistant at Newtown.
Yes.
Basically, you had said, you were looking to expand your coaching career. Talk about going from Shelton and coming to Newtown, which was a established program in itself for many years.
Yes, I was fortunate enough to get asked by Bob Zito to coach there. So I said, let me see other programs. Let me, widen my coaching perspective and see what's going on. So I went there, and Bob Zito was fantastic. One of the greatest guys. I was so fortunate to coach with him for a year. He was great.
Right.
Took me in. I was defensive coordinator. John Murphy had just left and took the Masick job. So they became instant rivals. They coached together for years, and they became instant rivals.
Right.
I was hired as a defensive coordinator at Newtown. So Bob Zito was great. We had a great time. I learned a real lot about coaching with Bob, and the program was way different than Shelton. Shelton was somewhere where I knew everybody,
right.
I knew all the kids, I knew their parents, I lived in town, I saw everybody. I would drive up 34 and go into Newtown. I knew nobody, didn't know any teachers, didn't know any players,
right.
didn't know any. So it was a big adjustment trying to go into a program where I knew nobody. Right. I didn't even know Bob Zito that well. I met him a few times. I coached with him in a couple All-Star games, but it wasn't like we were friends like I was with the rest of the guys I left at Shelton,
right.
Who I played with and coached with, for years and years and years. So I was basically going into something brand new, very different, not knowing anybody. So it was the first couple weeks. I was, wow, this is way different.
Did you have any regrets at first? Or reservations?
Not at first. No, I don't have any reservations because I definitely wanted to, change my coaching a little bit. I wanted to see other things. Because coaching was such a big part of what I was doing, I was looking to really expand. So I wanted to see other things in coaching, other places. But what was different was I was so comfortable at Shelton, knowing everything, what was going on, who I was with, who I was around,
right.
To going to a brand new place. But Coach Zito, the staff there, they were great. And, after a few weeks, started kind of getting comfortable, getting to know the kids. It was a great move for me. We ended up that year going, and we lost to Daniel Hand in the semis. Right. But it was a great team. I met a lot of great kids who I'm still in contact with. It ended up being a very good choice for me because a year later, I ended up getting the head job there.
Right. Now let me ask you, how did that come about? Did Coach Zito come to you after the season and say, listen, I'm stepping aside, I want you to apply for it? I mean, how did it come about?
Well, actually, we both went to Stratford. He got the head job at Stratford, and he took me with him. I was there for a couple of weeks.
Right.
And then the job opened up at Newtown. I didn't think I'd even have a chance because I was only there for 1 year. They didn't know me. Right. I wasn't a teacher in the system. So I thought it would be a difficult place to get the job. But they said, just interview. So I did, and I ended up getting the job. So I went with Bob. He wanted me to get a head job. He knew what I wanted to do.
Right.
And he was supportive of it, and he helped me. He helped me in the process, even though he was losing me as an assistant. He still helped out. He's an amazing coach, an amazing friend for those years. Great person.
Right.
So he helped me get the head job after he had left Newtown.
Right. So now you take over as the head coach. It's a big difference from being a coordinator. Now you're responsible. There's so many things a head coach has to do. Number one, paperwork is probably a pain sometimes. But you take over this program. I mean, talk about that first year. I mean, did you enjoy the first year? Was it rough?
No, I didn't enjoy coach. I think, be careful what you wish for was probably the statement I should use. I always wanted to be a head coach, and then when I got it, it just wasn't what
You
I was good
expected,
at.
right.
I was good at being a player coach and having fun at practice and motivating kids to do
Right.
things. And as the head coach now, it became more administrative. It became the relationship was different with the players now. I couldn't joke around with them.
Right.
I had to be more of the head coach.
Disciplinarian, yeah.
And I never really had a problem with the kids. In any team that I coach with, a few here and there, but more of just the administration of what to do in certain things.
Right.
So head coaching was, way different than an assistant.
Right, but you guys did have a good year that first year, correct?
I think we were 6-4.
6-4, right.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. It was 6-4. It was something where
Did you ever think about leaving after that first year?
No. I was set on staying there until.
So even though it was a little rough.
Yeah, it was just, and again, your first year trying to get used to things.
And I'm sure you had to be more involved with offense now, whereas a coach at Shelton and a coach, at Newtown, your primary job is the defense.
Right.
Now you have to really take a hand in the offense.
Yeah. The thing that really changed was, I still was only there for 1 year as an assistant. So, as a head coach now, I still didn't even know everyone or know, like Greg Simon, who was the athletic director there, was great.
Right.
But I wasn't real comfortable in knowing enough people and talking and getting a staff together. So I asked Tony Branca to come up and kind of, a familiar face,
right.
And feel a little bit comfortable with Tony up there with me and a few other Shelton people
right.
that I coached with at Shelton or coached at Shelton to come up to Newtown. Brad Picarillo,
right.
who is just a fantastic.
He was really young when you took him too.
Yes, yeah. He's a fantastic coach, great teacher, a great friend. And so I brought a little bit of Shelton to Newtown, and
right.
that kind of raised my comfort level. Eased
right.
the transition, exactly. And then I started getting comfortable there. And right. I had no intentions of leaving after 1 or 2 years. I wanted to make sure. I wanted to build a program and make it my home. So that's what we did.
Right. Now, I believe the 2000 season, you guys qualified for the playoffs, or was it 2001? It was definitely one of those
2001. Yeah, 2000.
2000, your second
yes.
season. So that had to be relief that your second year you got them back to the playoffs. You didn't win, but at the same time you got them there. And that
yeah,
was
bringing up some of the people from Shelton. Help coach. We knew
right.
what each other wanted as a coaching staff. Things fell into place, and we had some great players. That always helps. We had beaten Monroe. That was a big rivalry,
right.
and then we played Fitch, who just killed us. They were
good program.
Good. Yeah, that
right.
year they were fantastic. They had beat us up pretty good. But I was very comfortable at Newtown now. After my second year, my first year as a head coach, I was very excited.
Right.
And now, I was very excited about the program and where we were going. I started getting some more coaches involved. So, yeah, it was now, a place where I can call like my home now. So you need to have a season where you win some games and see some success to get people to start believing in what you're doing.
Right. Now explain the difference between the SCC and the SWC, because SWC, you're still playing some large schools, but I mean, was there a big difference between the two?
See, at the time, when I was coaching at Shelton, there was the rivals, and I knew who they were. I knew how to drive to every
right.
game. I knew every coach.
Right.
I knew everything about the league. Being there, I think it was there 13 years, whatever it was,
right.
before I had left. So, I knew the players coming up.
And now you're driving to New Milford.
Now I'm going to New Fairfield. We got lost. I would get lost going to games like Bethel, New Milford, New Fairfield.
No GPS then.
Yeah, where are we? Like an hour ride. So I was still getting used to the league. I didn't know who the kids were that played. Like I didn't see a freshman game or a JV game. So it was the challenges of coaching in Newtown were way different than Shelton. Shelton, everything was comfortable. Everything fell into place. Everything was easy.
Right.
Newtown, everything was a struggle. Just finding Brookfield High School. I remember we were lost for an hour trying to get to Brookfield High School scouting. So there was a lot more things that went into Newtown, that made it a little bit more of a struggle for me. But it was definitely something I was willing to go through to have a program of my own that I was a head coach of.
Right. I believe it was the 2002 season. You had a difficult season. I think you guys went 5-6. I know this, that you wore your heart on your sleeve. A lot of people don't understand the grind that coaching takes on a coach. Talk to me about how hard you took some of the losses. I mean, do you take them home with you a lot? Because, you work hard all year. Because I do know after that 5-6 season, you couldn't even bring yourself to go to any playoff games. You were just kind of so upset. So, you really wore your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah, I think that was one of the worst coaching years I've had. It was one of those, some of the kids didn't work out into the program we were trying to run.
Right.
We had some parent problems. It was a bad year all around. And it was my first experience of head coaching that, why am I doing this situation? And, I think every head coach at some point experiences it. It's not, very few kind of have a great coaching career and never have those rough years.
Right.
But it was just that year that was one of the roughest for me. Coaching was just not fun.
Right.
There was nothing good about it. But again, through playing and coaching with Bob Riggio, there was no quit and give up, or do things to make it better. So I remember the off season we went to a coaching clinic, and I think we talked as a staff, and one of the things that I needed to change, we talked about, and we made some changes to get better. So that was a difficult year, and it definitely gave me second thoughts about coaching. But it was something that you get through, you get better from, and move on.
Right. And you know what I think, Coach? I look at two key points that really got the program back, and you guys would have your last few years just great seasons. One was 2003. You guys had a young team. You started off 0-4, but then you racked off 4 out of your last 5. I think you tied once, and I think you went 4-5-1, maybe 4-6-1. But you guys definitely were headed in the right direction. But then in 2004, it's a game against Pomperog that I always remember. You guys played them on a Saturday morning, and they really gave it to you guys. It was a blowout, and it looked like you guys were going to have a bad year. And then the following week, I can't remember if it was Brookfield, I forget. You guys tied the team, and it was a good team. And then from there on in, you guys turned it around. You went 7-2-1 with the big win against Massac on Thanksgiving Eve the night before. And they were a heavy favorite, Massac.
Yes.
Talk about that 2004 team.
Yeah, another great year. Great kids on that team. Joe DeVillis, and who's coaching now, and still using a lot of the terms that we used when I was coaching there. But it was one of those seasons where all of the kids decided we're going to do, the kids and the coaches decided. And they
could have easily quit after that Pomperog game.
That Pomperog game, I think it got moved to Danbury because of weather or something like that.
Yeah, it was a lousy day.
It was, and Pomperog ended up going to the state playoffs and beating Brantford. Brantford had a great player.
And you guys would knock them off the following year.
Yes.
Yeah.
They ran that hammer offense, and they were Mike Kilt played for them. He was just a fantastic running back. But yeah, we were 0-1-1, and it was not looking good at the time. But the thing that turned that season around was the leadership of that senior class.
Right.
And we knew that we had a tough start to the schedule. They hung in there. They still believed in what we were doing. And those seniors, I remember that senior class, and anytime it comes up with the people.
That was one of the better Newtown teams.
Yeah,
Very
it really
underrated.
was. It was unfortunate that we, the schedule back then was a little different than it is now. I think in the last couple of years, the SWC might have been a little bit weaker. When I was there were some very, very good teams. Bunnell was very good.
Yes, yeah.
Brookfield was very good. Pomperog was very good. There was a lot of good teams at the time.
Right, and of course Massac.
Massac was always good
Right.
under John Murphy. So the schedule was very difficult. Not that it isn't now, but there were some tough games. So we ended up with a great group of seniors that year that kind of got us through the first couple of tough ones, and then ended up 7-2-1.
Right, and that was, like I said, that was a fun Newtown team to watch. They could have easily quit after that first game, and they didn't. And, they turned what looked like could be a lousy season. They made it a great one. I mean,
Yes.
in that league to go 7-2-1, that's a phenomenal year.
Yeah, we had, and sometimes, people ask me about a season with the record 7-2-1 or 8-1 or 8-2, and I always go by the seniors. And
Right.
I got that from Bob Riggio. I want to know how the seniors are doing and how the guys are doing, and how many of them are coaching now,
Right.
and how many did I bring in, and stuff like that. So that year was one of those years where we had some recruits go Division I.
Right.
Dan Cascone went to Wisconsin. In a funny story, me and Coach Branca decided to go to Wisconsin for a camp with Dan. Now, Coach Branca is a big guy. Dan Cascone, a 300-pound kid. And the only flights we can get were at like this little 6-seater plane. And the pilot's like, we're overweight. And we're like, we didn't even put our bags on yet. The plane wasn't going to be able to take off. We had too much weight on the plane. It was so funny. But we ended up making it we landed in Midway Airport and went to a camp out in Wisconsin. Dan Cascone got signed at the camp. And then Josh Rouse got signed at Michigan State. Coakley was looking at Penn State. So we had some kids some really good players signed Division I. So it was one of those years that I was really proud of what we did with that senior class.
Right.
And the places that the kids went, and then the other kids who started coaching. Tarantino's a coach at Newtown now. Bob Patterson's a coach at Newtown now. Joe DeVillis is
Right.
a coach. So when you leave, when a year ends and they move on, and those kids end up coaching, I think that's a big part of what you're doing. If they're coaching, then you did something right.
Right.
So a lot of kids that I've coached turned into coaches. I think that's really, I'm really proud of that. And that year was one of those fantastic years with kids that we had.
Right. Coach, some schools, it's about winning championships. Some schools, it's about keeping the program a success and always, being ahead, above water. You as a coach, what to you is a great season? I mean, it doesn't always have to be a championship, does it? What to you makes a great season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when I started, it was all about winning. And as I started coaching, and the people I met and the friends that I've made and the relationships that I have with other coaches and other players that I've coached through that whole 30 years of coaching, I would say the relationships and friendships that I have with a lot of the kids, teammates and players are more important than the wins. And I got that from Riggio.
Right.
He instilled something in me that I'm very thankful for. You remember the records and the wins, but the friendships and the relationships I have with some of these people are just amazing. And they're like, I am so thankful of all of the people I've met through coaching have been really shaped my life. I'm very thankful. And I don't know if I'm thankful for so many wins as much as I am for the people that I met. So coaching for me was more of the camaraderie and the people. Just like as a player, I wasn't the best player. It wasn't about the plays, making plays. It was about being with the team. So I think that kind of transcends into coaching. It wasn't about the wins. It was about being with the team in the staff.
Right.
And I've had some great staffs.
And I bet, Coach, that to this day, you probably see some of these kids you coach, they're probably in their 30s, maybe some are close to 40, and they probably still call you Coach when they see you.
Yeah, they do.
And that's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's there's nothing more rewarding than coaching. I've been around some really good coaches and try to emulate and do some of the things that they do and put a twist on some of the things that I do. But it's really, there's nothing more rewarding,
right.
Than coaching. And now, in the past years, I've coached my children, my son and my daughter, in youth sports, and it's even more rewarding when it's your own son
kids,
and daughter.
right.
And yes, it's such a rewarding thing to have kids that I've been associated with as their coach, come up to me and we talk and we say, remember when this happened, or remember when that happened, or
right.
Things like that. And it's really been a great ride for me in the last 28 years.
Right. So now, 2005 season, you guys again have a good year. You finished 6-3-1. You tie Massac at the end of the year, and again they were a heavy favorite. Yep. You go into the 2006 season, and this was one of the better Newtown teams, but I think this would also be your last season at Newtown.
Yes, it was.
And I believe you guys went 8-2 that year. But that 8-2 team was such a great Newtown team. Talk about that team a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the names, but that year, we just had, things at home were going on. My kids were getting older. And
Did you know it would be your last year?
I didn't know at the start of the season.
Right.
And I knew we were going to be very good. I knew that we had some players, and I knew that we were going to be competitive. And again, the wins didn't matter, whether we were 8-2 or 2-8. It didn't really play into my decision. But halfway through the season, basketball starts like in November. Girls basketball starts a little bit earlier. My daughter, Nicole, said, "Dad, when are you going to coach me, or when are you going to come to my game?" And I was coaching at the time,
right.
not able to go watch her play basketball. So it started to weigh on me, and each week it was weighing more and more. And I'm like, wait a second, I don't know if I can coach at Newtown and have my daughter playing basketball or any sport for that matter and not watch her.
Right.
So as the season was nearing the end, we had a great season. Before the season even ended, I thought, this might be something that I should consider. Even as hard as it was, I had my dream job. Newtown is a great place to coach. There's great families up there, great people.
Program was only going up,
too. The program was going up. I had a great athletic director. Everything was great about the program. It was my dream job. I want to be a head coach. I'm finally a head coach, and now I'm like, what am I doing? I'm leaving.
Right.
I'm leaving a program that right now is one of the best in the state. As far as facilities and things like that.
Right.
And we were taking the next step. We had everyone believe in. We had a great staff in place, and now
right.
We were taking the next step. And I had to think about my family.
Right.
Which is kind of ironic. The guy who was coaching with me, Steve George, he had just stepped down recently from Newtown for the same reasons. He's got 3 kids, one on the way,
right.
And we talked about it a little bit briefly. And it's tough to be with your football family and
your real family,
and your real family kind of not seeing you much. So I started that year not knowing I was going to resign, but as time went through the season and missing the things with my family, I knew it was time that I either had to be a father or, coaching was definitely taking time away from being a good father.
Right. So let me ask you, when the Board of Ed accepted your resignation, I mean, there had to be some sadness to you. I mean, you can't just leave, and you're happy what you accomplished, but at the same time, you are saying goodbye to something that had to be difficult.
The two worst days in my coaching career were when I left Shelton and when I left Newtown.
Right.
Those were the 2 worst days in my coaching career. The selfish part of me did not want to leave Newtown at all. I loved it there.
Right.
Started to really get some good relationships. It was
and
tough.
You still go to games. I mean,
I still go
now with your son playing, you can't go to them right now.
I went to 3 Newtown games this year. Obviously, Shelton played Newtown, so that probably doesn't count. But I went to 3 games. I still am in contact with a lot of the guys coaching there.
Right.
I still have a love for that program up there. But it was very difficult to leave. But knowing, you make decisions and you think, I was doing it for the right reasons. I wanted to be a good father. I wanted to be around with my kids playing. sports. So it was time to, turn the page, and it was one of my goals. Check that off. I was a head coach. I experienced the ups and the downs. I made a lot of great relationships, and it was time to turn the page and open up to the next chapter and start getting involved with my family. So that's what I did.
Right. And in 2007, you would move over. You'd come back to Shelton again, this time with the Flag Football League, which I think that league is a great thing that Shelton does.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things, because I really don't believe that a kid in maybe second or third grade is ready to play Pop Warner or AYF. I think they should play a league like this first, so you kind of get an introduction to football. Talk about coaching flag football.
Yeah, Shelton flag football. So I leave high school, head coach. I go to coaching 5-year-olds.
Right.
So we would take our first practice was how to put the helmet on and buckle it, and
right.
So it was from one extreme to the other. Shelton flag football is a great program. I agree. I didn't want my son playing tackle at 5 years old. I don't think it was appropriate. I don't think it was time. So went to Shelton flag football and had a great team. He played on Florida State, and he had a few friends, and those memories. I mean, those coaching days were just as exciting as some of the days in Newtown and Shelton, in a different way. But it was definitely, I made the right decision in leaving Newtown to spend this time with my son and his friends in flag football. The program is fantastic.
Right.
I would recommend it to anybody. And it was great to still be involved in the game and in coaching, and doing it with my son was very rewarding.
Right. Now let me ask you, I was just going to ask you that. A lot of times when you coach your kids, it's difficult because you have to treat them like a normal player. And, sometimes kids will argue with their parents when they're coaching them. And it happens, I've seen a lot in basketball. Baseball, not as much, but definitely basketball. Was it difficult to coach Jake in the beginning?
I think it was very easy. Here's why. I think when you're a coach first and then you coach your kid, it's one thing.
Right.
When you coach your kid for the first time as a coach and coaching your kid, it's difficult.
Right.
But I already coached long before I was a father, so I had coaching down. Now throwing him in the mix really it wasn't hard because I was a coach. I knew more about coaching at that point than most other fathers who were just trying to be a coach.
Right.
I don't know if I'm explaining that perfectly, but I think in youth sports, yes, it's a big problem with daddy ball and fathers coaching.
Right.
I see it, and youth coaching is one of the hard. Now I coached at high school level. It's easier to coach at a high school level than it is at the youth level. Youth level is very, very difficult.
Right.
When I got the kids in high school, they knew a lot of the fundamentals. They knew a lot of the techniques. They knew the game. They watched it on. I'm getting kids at the youth level that don't even know the rules of the game. Don't even watch it on TV. So coaching at youth level is much more difficult than the high school level. But coaching my daughter or my son, I probably was a little bit harder on them than I would have been if they were, in another situation. But it wasn't difficult for me.
Right.
I didn't have to show favoritism or anything because, I've already coached before. So I think it was comfortable for me to coach them. I don't know how comfortable they were, but I wasn't really concerned about them at the time. So both of them, I think, benefited. They would probably say no to some extent, but I think both of them enjoyed me as their coach. I hope they did.
Right. Now let me ask you, Shelton was doing AYF and they were still doing Pop Warner, and then I think Pop Warner finally broke away altogether. I mean, do you think that AYF is great for a kid who can't make weight. Everybody gets to play AYF. But do you think Pop Warner is something that still should be there for kids? I mean, an alternative? What do you think?
Well, I was back and forth when they had the merger and everything.
You coached Jake and Pop Warner, correct?
No, I coached him at Flag, and then we went right to AYF.
AYF, yeah.
And we had a mixed team. We had a fourth and fifth grade team. Because we didn't have enough yet because Pop Warner was still in existence. There's no right answer, but here's what I think. Grade specific, AYF way format is better.
Right, because you're playing with each other.
The maturity is more important than size. And if you look at like any college program, any high school program, or even these PG programs out there, maturity is way more important than size. So if you get a kid who's tiny, but he's 2 years older, he's going to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more confident. So I think age appropriate is better than weight appropriate.
Right.
But there's arguments on both sides. I do agree with some of the things on the Pop Warner side, but I like the format of AYF because I could take a team, at the time it was fifth graders, and I can coach them fifth grade, then sixth grade, then seventh grade, then eighth grade, right. and really shape a team and really be with these kids and my son's friends for the next 5 years, 4 or 5 years. Where in Pop Warner, it bounces around older, lighter. The next year you might be on this team, the next year you might be on that team. So that format for me, I really like the idea of him playing with the same guys and getting better for the next 4 years.
Right.
Fourth grade through eighth grade.
Right. So let's talk about the AYF program and this team, this group of kids you coach, because I'm going to tell you right now, for anyone who's not paying attention, I think Shelton's going to have 2 tremendous seasons coming up, and those kids that are going to be playing are kids that you coached, that you kind of, introduced to AYF. I mean, you coached them from 4th grade, I believe, till 8th grade.
Yep.
Talk about coaching those kids. I mean, you coached your son, Jake. You had, I think, Jake DeLibero, Nick Andrade. You had Sammy Chalk. I mean, there were a bunch of great kids you coached.
They were all great. I mean,
Jordan Peck.
Every single one of those kids from 4th grade. And then when we started in 5th grade with our own team, because 4th grade we were still a combined team.
Right.
We didn't have enough kids, so we had some younger kids play, and we were just starting the AYF.
Right.
So 5th grade, we had a group of kids, and we had one thing that we needed to accomplish in those 4 years, and that was to win some type of championship. I always, say winning, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, but winning some type of championship in those 4 years was important for these kids and me to show that this is why we're doing this is why we're doing this drill or that drill. Every team was a winning team, every team was successful, but we had the dads that I coached with and myself, we had the greatest time with these kids. And I really believe, every high school coach should go down and coach a youth team for a couple of years to see how different it is. It's very different. It's very challenging, but also in the same turn, it's extra rewarding. And being my son and his friends was even more rewarding. So we took the program, 4th grade, 5th grade. I think we had 3 losses in 4th grade.
Right.
And 5th grade, we had 2 losses to the same team, Monroe. Monroe beat us every year.
And then finally
4th grade,
7th grade,
5th grade, 6th grade, Monroe beat us 3 times. They beat us twice in the regular season, once in the playoffs. And the only other team that beat us was Newtown, in 4th grade, and Norwalk in 4th grade. So the only team that was beating us in 5th grade and 6th grade was Monroe.
Right.
And then 7th grade, we end up regular season not playing Monroe.
Right, and then playing them.
And then we played them in the finals.
And I think that's the way you have to do it. You'll hear a lot of different teams, whether it's in pro sports, college, whatever, we don't want to play them, they always beat us. But I think you have to play that team and beat them to get over the hump, to climb the mountain. And I think that was even better for you guys, that you beat a team that was kind of like a thorn in your side.
Oh, yeah, they were a thorn, that's for sure.
And to beat them and win the championship, that had to be even more gratifying.
Yeah, there's a few wins that rank up there. That win was amazing. That win was something that, for my son and his friends, is great. But for me and the guys that I was coaching, was an amazing thing. We won a game where we had, we had 29 kids, I think, on the team. You have to get minimum plays. You have to get all these kids in. We played them in road team. That's fantastic. I mean, they were very good. Jack Roberge on that team he started as a freshman for Monroe. He's a great player. They had a lot of good players. A couple kids went to prep. They were a fantastic team. They beat us they didn't just beat us. They beat us up every time we played them. They beat us really well. They beat us by 2 or 3 scores, and they beat us up.
Right.
So this year, we had to change something. We were getting beat consistently. So I remember we changed a few things that I thought we'd have to change to win.
Right.
And I remember all the coaches, even the kids, even my own son, this isn't going to work. It's not. No one was happy with what, and it was one of those things where we had to do something different, and we wanted to shorten the game and just run every second off the play clock. I taught my son, because obviously he lives with me, I taught him how to run the play clock down to 2 seconds so that we can shorten the game, keep it closer. He learned, in sixth grade and 7th grade about what official raises his hand on the 5 seconds to go on the play clock. Right. So for a week I drilled him on running the clock. And certain things about holding the ball a little bit longer before you give it to the official, so that the clock keeps running. So we shortened the game. It was close at half. We ended up, getting the lead, and we took a drive from the 30-yard line. The game happened to be at Shelton High School, was where the site was for the championship, and we drove 70 yards and we scored. I think the final was 32-22. I'm pretty sure that was the final.
Right.
But we drove to get the 10-point lead. Brian Burrito scored on like a 2-yard or 10-yard run, whatever it was. Brian Burrito scored, and we got a penalty because our entire bench cleared down and was in the end zone. I'm like, it was a well-deserved penalty, but it was a well-deserved celebration also. But that win was fantastic, and it was.
Would that win rank up there with any high school?
It's probably number one.
Number one.
Probably number one for me as a coach, because it was something that with my son and his friends, and something that was a huge upset. And it was something that we built, because that was now where these kids were going to go into 8th grade. And we had to split the team after that.
Right, which was unfortunate.
We had things changed right away after that win.
So it was pretty much your last year with all of them together.
It was my last year with all of them, with all those kids. And then we had to, split into 2 teams and play with like a 20-man roster on each team, which was tough. But, that was the last time we were all together. It was great to win, beat that team that beat us consistently. That group really they were undefeated as freshmen.
Yeah. And I think JVs, they had a tremendous year.
They had a tremendous year. I think they had 1 loss.
And a lot of them got some playing time this year.
Jack Carr.
Right,
Ferrigno. Paul Ferrigno. Ray Weiner, who's a guard, is a fantastic player.
Right.
They're a very, very solid group of kids. I was very fortunate to coach them. It was a lot of fun coaching them, and now watching them play, it's really great. So I think, they're gonna if they can do what needs to be done, they're going to be a very good team in the next couple of years.
Right. I think the future is bright, and for Coach Roy, I mean, it's great for him, because he just had 2 great teams. This team wasn't even bad, and now he's going to get 2 more great teams. So the future is bright for Shelton football.
Yeah, they have it going on. I mean, the youth program's in place, and things look good for Shelton football. They got a real good weight room. Dan Dune does a great job in the conditioning program. Their off-season program's great, and they're winning. They just gotta get that one.
Which I'm sure it'll come eventually.
Let's see. My son and I talk. You got to, at some point, you got to take the next step. Hopefully this group is the one that does it. It'd be great to see them. Take the next step and win a championship. That would be great.
Exactly. Now, Coach, during your time with AYF, you did come back to coach in high school for 1 year. You coached at Emmett O'Brien.
Yes, I did.
In fact, I know a lot of people, when they combined with Derby, they would tell you Emmett had a program for 4 years, but it was really Emmett's first year as a program. I know you weren't able to stay, but talk about taking over that program. That was challenging because a lot of these kids have never played together. What was that like for you?
It was, I'm glad I did it. I thought it was going to be a little different. I thought things were going to work out different, and I was going to be able to stay there for a while and have things happen there. But again, once you got that coaching in you, and I was so used to being coaching high school. At the time when they approached me about the Emmett job, I was able to say, you know what, I'll coach here, and then I can still do the AYF because AYF practice starts at 6 o'clock at night.
Right.
And now I'm coaching 2 teams, which
right.
I did all through basketball. I always coached my son and my daughter's team. I'd make it work.
Right.
I'd coach my son's daughter lacrosse. It didn't matter. I was able to coach. If I was good, if it could be done, I'd find a way.
Right.
So I was like, I'll coach both teams. And I was able to get the job there. It just didn't turn out. It just wasn't what I needed it. I would have hoped or needed it to be.
Do you think they should have played JV or freshman a couple of years? Do you think that had anything to do with it?
No, because we still got some wins over there, even though it was a first year.
4, right?
3 wins, yeah. We were 3 and 7. Had some the players that came over from Derby,
right.
Tom Buckles and I can't remember running back Frank Corso. Oh,
right,
great
Corso.
running back.
Yeah.
He was a very, very good running back. We had some players. It's just Emmett O'Brien didn't realize that you need equipment and a place to practice, and
right.
so, they just put this all together. We were going through used shoulder pads from Stadium Systems just to get. So it was kind of put together. At the last minute to get a varsity team together. So we were in spring football, we had like 22, 23 kids, and we just weren't ready for the program to play at that point. Whether it was finances or equipment or practice time, it was really nobody's fault. It just, everyone wanted it to happen and just pushed it to happen. And it just, the funds just weren't there, and it needed more time to get it to be. Nick Capri is over there now doing a great job.
Right.
And he was on staff with me the first year.
Right. He's a good guy too.
He's a great guy. A great guy. A little sarcastic, if you haven't noticed, but he's a great guy. Good announcer. But he's over there now. He was with me the first year. He's doing a great job. And now things are starting to play out. They're getting things. New uniforms this year, and some of the field things are getting taken care of. So it's a lot better. Than that 1 year that I was there. And then as soon as I took the job, things turned a little bit for me financially. We opened another daycare, got a little bit more busy. Business got turned right away after I accepted the job, so I got a little bit more, things got a little bit more busier at that time, so it was tough for me to stay there, so it was best for me to resign.
Right. So let me ask you this. In 2 years when Jake graduates, will you come back to coaching?
I really hope so. I hope so. I think it's something I really enjoy. I really, really enjoy. I miss it now. I wish I can coach now. But
would you come back as a head coach?
No. My ego days are over. I don't need to be a head coach.
Just an assistant.
I would love to be an assistant.
Would you come back to AYF at all?
Oh, I think I would. Yeah. I think my wife would want me to coach anywhere, get out of the house, But yeah, I miss it. I've only been off for a season because, like I said, I coached my daughter in lacrosse, and basketball since she was. And
how gratifying is that to be able to coach her?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, she's in college and she's a freshman at High Point University.
Right.
I was fortunate enough, after I left Newtown, I took over the lacrosse program at Shelton, and real quick, I mean, Coach Branca called me and said, "What do you want to do the girls lacrosse?" I said, "I never even saw boys lacrosse. I'm going to coach. I never played girls lacrosse." He goes, "You just got to coach it."
And the program's really, moving there.
Yeah,
it's really great.
We had a fantastic win. We actually, Nicole's 7th grade year, we had a very, very good team. As 4th graders, they lost every game. 5th graders, I think we won 2 or 3, and then 6th graders, we won them all. We won the county tournament.
Right.
And then 7th grade, we won them all, and I remember, calling. We wanted to play either Wilton or Darien or New Canaan, and none of those towns would play us because we're not going to play Shelton. They thought it would be a waste of time. I said,
Right.
we'll come to you. I just want to play. So my daughter's 7th grade year, we went up to Darien and we played them. We won 9-6. In Darien in girls
Right.
lacrosse is they're the best you can get. So I did the lacrosse program and I coached her in basketball. So I was doing basketball and lacrosse. I was doing my son in football and basketball. So I was coaching, like I said, when we started this, around the calendar year
Right.
since I was 18 years old.
Wow.
So now I'm 48. So for 30 years, every season I was coaching except for this past football season. I didn't coach.
Right.
You know, my daughter moved on to college. She's down in North Carolina, and my son's at Shelton. And it's, you know,
Right.
in high school, it's tough. You know, it's tough to coach your son in high school.
Right.
I
don't think you would enjoy it. You want to watch him play.
Yeah, I want to watch him play.
Yeah, and it's hard if you
I
have
think
to
I could
focus
still
on something.
enjoy it. I think, you know, I think I would still enjoy it because I know all those kids. I had them all through
Right.
through AYF. But I definitely see, you know, it's better to just be in the stands and
Right.
take a step away. He's got 2 years. He needs to experience other people, other styles, other coaching. I get both sides of it. So yes, it's a little difficult, but I do understand. In 2 years when he's gone, I would love to coach again. Yeah,
Right.
It's something that has been very rewarding for me at all levels. The youth level, I have such great, you know, like at all levels, the friends I've made, all levels, the experiences I have been just tremendous.
Right.
It's been the greatest decision of coach has been one of the greatest decisions I've made. It really has done a lot for me.
Right.
So yes, I would love to.
Now, tell me, football, you know, you've coached it forever. Tell me how challenging lacrosse is to coach.
Well,
Those kids are moving up and down
girls
that field.
lacrosse, the rules are a lot of interpretation, so the rules are tough.
Right.
But once you learn it, once I learned the game, I loved coaching girls lacrosse. Coaching girls and coaching boys is two way separate
Right.
things. Girls, you just have to always be positive. You
Right.
know, boys, you can challenge them a little bit more, things like that. But I enjoyed coaching my daughter's teams, her friends in those the lacrosse. Oh, it was some of the greatest times.
Right.
And we had some really good teams. We really won a lot of games in very, very competitive settings. In the county tournament, we beat Stanford and Norwalk. We beat Darien. You know, she had a very, very good high school career at Shelton. She tore ACL her sophomore year, but still she leads the team all time in assists. Funny story about that is when we were playing in 8th grade, North Haven, we didn't lose in 2 years. And, you know, I didn't want to lose. We were
Right.
playing a tight game against North Haven. I told her, last 4 minutes, don't pass. Either if you got the goal, take it. If not, let's delay and run the clock out, which you can do in girls lacrosse. And, you know, she passed the ball and the girl shot, the goalie saved. They went down and we ended up losing 8-7 to North Haven. So I took her stick and I threw it and I was furious with her. And I said, we lost because you passed the ball. And she goes, that's what I do. Like, I'm not you. I don't want to be like you. I wasn't about winning. She was open, and I wanted to pass the ball. And then she went on to high school, and she's all-time assist leader for Shelton.
Wow.
So she and she's second. I think she's second in goals, which I'm proud of. She really was fun, really fun to watch, just as much as my son in basketball and lacrosse. But
Right.
she's was so unselfish. Me, I was always selfish about winning, and you know.
So she kind of taught you a lesson.
Yeah, she taught me a big lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about you, and from that point on, I really, you know, in some of the things that I've done, I realize, you know, you learn lessons even. I'm 48 years old, and in coaching, that's why I like it so much. You know, every day is a different experience.
Right.
You know, you go to work and it's just kind of the same thing and routine, and it is. But in coaching, each kid gives you a different perspective, and each kid, and each parent, and each game, and each situation is so different. It's really exciting, and that's you know, I miss it already. So. It's going to be tough 2 years watching, but I'll get through it, and then I hope to, you know, somewhere. It doesn't have to be a head coach. I'd be an assistant. I don't even know what sport. I do basketball. I don't even know, but I'd love to get back into it.
Right. You know, Coach, one of the first times I really got an idea of who you were was I was at Seymour, I want to say I was watching Seymour Woodland, and I'm getting, texts from different people, and they're asking me, do you have any scores? And I get a text from a good friend of mine, Ron Leno, and he's asking me, do I know the Newtown Massick score? And in my head, I'm like, well, why does he care about that game? He's not in that league. What does it matter? So, I give him the score, and I said, does that have playoff implications? And he goes, no, my good friend Ken Roberts coaches there, and I wanted to see how they were doing. And, there's been other people as well. Chris Anderson's always talked fondly of you, Joe Bonanto, Dennis Wanzi, guys like that. What does it mean to you to have respect from other coaches and, guys who know what you have to go through all the time? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, and that's first of all, Ronnie Leno coached with me at Newtown.
Right.
Is just so much fun. I had a great time coaching with him. He's an amazing guy.
Right.
We spent some coaching clinics together. Really had a fun time with Ronnie. But basically, that's why I enjoy coaching so much. Is like I said, as a player, it wasn't about making the plays. It was about being involved in the camaraderie of the guys I graduated with. Mike Doklo, Mike Cinto, Darren McKay, Chris Roy, Mike Bucci. And then coaching, it was the camaraderie of the coaches. And then that's the big thing for me that I really enjoyed. So, missing those guys in not coaching, now it is very difficult for me because I'm so used to being involved in the circuit of coaches and the respect of each other's, not that it's not being respected anymore, but you kind of miss that camaraderie of all those guys, and all those guys are such a special part of my life because we've done so many things together in coaching. You spend a lot of time together and you do a lot of things.
Right.
So.
Well, Coach, in both parts, it's been a lot of fun. You were a great guest, but the thing that always stands out to me the most about you is the love that you have with the interaction with the kids, because that's the most important thing. If you're just doing it for you, you shouldn't even be doing it, and you're doing it for the kids. And that was proven by the fact that, again, you went and coached flag football after so many years as a high school coach. And to me, you're a great coach, but I even think you're a better person, and it was really an honor to have you on today.
Thank you very much. It was a great time. I really appreciate the time. Thank you. It's fun.
Well, folks, there you have it. It started 30 years ago when he became an assistant coach under the legendary Bob Riggio. From there, he went on to coach with Tony Branca and also Joe Bonanto. Eventually, he decided it was time to go on his own, and he left the Shelton program to head to Newtown. In 8 years there, he had tremendous seasons with that program, some great wins against Massick, Pomperog, just to name a few. As time went on, he left Newtown for an even smaller group. He decided to coach his son and his friends and coach flag football for 3 years. He then went on to AYF and built a great program there, eventually a state championship in 2014. The wins say a lot about Coach Roberts, but it's not just wins, it's not just awards, it's not just accolades. Yes, he was a Coach of the Year in 2006, and those are great things to be proud of. But the thing that Coach Roberts is most proud of is the relationships he's had with the players, the coaches, and that to him is the most important thing, because having the relationship with those kids and the bonds he's made is really the most rewarding thing he has done as a coach. Is Ken Roberts a hometown hero? I say absolutely, and he's somebody we should be very proud of. For Hometown Heroes, I'm Mike Cannici saying good night, everyone.